Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments, such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. From Boundary to Bear Lake, Fremont to Payette, Oahe to Oneida, there are interesting people, places, and histories in all of Idaho's counties. And Idaho Matters wants to share it with you with stories from all 44 counties that make up the Gem State. Email your ideas to idahomatters@boisestate.edu or use the Talk to Us feature in our app, available on Apple and Android, and tune in each weekday at noon for Idaho Matters.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Samantha Wright, filling in for Gemma Gaudette. It's Idaho Matters. It was a 15-year legislative battle to protect Idaho's Boulder White Cloud Mountains. From local Gem State elections to decisions in the Oval Office, this was a journey of unlikely allies and relentless determination to protect one of the state's most treasured landscapes, and at the center of it was Rick Johnson, former executive director of the Idaho Conservation League, and he's joining us today to share his inside story and to preview his upcoming talk at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute in Boise on this historic conservation victory. Rick, thanks for being here. This is great.
Pleasure, Samantha. It's good to be here.
Okay, so can we start with the Boulder White Clouds? You were out there just a couple days ago. Where is it? What does it look like for anybody who hasn't been there or doesn't know about it?
The Boulder White Clouds is really a constellation of the Boulder Mountains, which you see from the town of Ketchum, and then you see it as you drive north into the Sawtooth National Recreation Area. That's the Boulder Mountains to your immediate right or to the east. Then you cross over Galena Summit, and of course you see the majesty of the Sawtooth Mountains. The White Clouds themselves are actually to the east and really kind of hard to see from the road. The White Cloud Peaks and the classic Castle Peak. Castle Peak alone is the tallest mountain in Idaho you can't see from a major road. And then another piece of the Boulder White Clouds is on the east side. It's on the east side of the East Fork of the Salmon River watershed and includes Jerry Peak, Herd Peak, and some other key places.
And it's beautiful. It is just gorgeous.
Yeah, no, it's some of Idaho's most remarkable wild country, and people have been talking about protecting this area ever since the late 60s, when there was a major threat of an open pit mine at the base of Castle Peak. And for those of, if you have a certain color of gray in your hair, you may recall that this is how Cecil Andrus became elected governor in the 1970 governor's race, because he opposed the mine.
Right, and it became once the mine was kind of put aside, there was still this fight to find some kind of protection for the Boulder White Clouds, and it spanned more than a decade, right?
Well, the Sawtooth, the creation of the Sawtooth NRA was a step in the right direction for sure. That stopped the threat of the mine and put that aside. But the long-term protection of a wilderness designation for the White Clouds in the Boulders and the east side, similar to what is enjoyed by the River No Return in the Middle Fork or the Sawtooths, that wilderness designation was long in coming, to be sure. And a key element of that was the election of Mike Simpson, a Republican from Blackfoot, to the U.S. Congress. He had been the Idaho Speaker in the Idaho House, but he was elected in 1998. We got together, we started talking about the place, and he became the unlikely champion and a partner with me and many, many, many others, thousands of people really from across the state that worked really hard to protect this place in partnership with Mike Simpson.
And that partnership, that's a lot of unlikely allies. You've got Mike Simpson, you've got a lot of conservationists, eventually President Barack Obama. Talk about all these people coming together to protect this one spot.
Well, I think that there's a photograph of the Oval Office where Mike and I are giving each other a little man hug, and Barack Obama's laughing in the foreground. And I talk about how that's the environmentalist from the north end of Boise being hugged by the conservative Republican from Blackfoot, while the African American president of the United States is looking on. Um, it really was an unlikely gathering, and that really is ultimately why it matters for Idaho. And the we famously don't like the federal government telling us what to do. But when it comes to these public lands that are literally held in stewardship by the federal government for all Americans, it is incumbent upon Idahoans to come together and together write the roadmap of what we want to have done. And it's hard. It's really hard to do. And through the White Clouds, I'd be the first to say that I learned a lot. I learned a lot about Idaho. I learned a lot about all the differing uses that people have, the ranchers, the motorized recreationists, the bikers, hikers, everybody. And the remarkable thing about the White Clouds is we came together, and through Simpson's leadership, through some inspiration from Cecil Andrus, and even further back, Frank Church, but we came together and created an Idaho solution for an Idaho landscape for the benefit of all America.
Well, and you said it was hard, and it was hard. I read that it took Simpson 10 times to try and get this through Congress?
Yeah, I have a funny stack of those things. I mean, every time the bill was introduced, which was 10 times over 15 years, he would send me a copy with a little note on the top. And so I have those framed as a stack. I'll bring those to the Osher Institute next Wednesday. But yeah, it's, there's sort of a fable that success is from point A to point B. The reality is success is a spider web of all the different ups, downs, sideways, and everything to get to point B. It took a long time. And we had a lot of moments where we thought we were going to fail. But to Mike Simpson's infinite credit, he never gave up. And we never gave up.
And you were there when the bill was signed by President Obama. And then what about since then? What's been the impact of creating this wilderness, both for the wilderness and for Idaho and fights like this in the future?
Well, we live in challenging times when you think about the public lands of the United States. There have been threats in the U.S. Congress to sell off public lands. And it has been gratifying to see a bipartisan coalition of people, and even more gratifying, frankly, to see conservative sports people, recreationists, people with an R next to their name, step up and say, whoa, 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 I love my colleagues in Washington, D.C., but we're not selling off our public lands. And it is good to see this rise from the grassroots, from conservative bastions, not unlike Idaho, but other parts of the West, where people are saying, this is part of what makes America great. It's what makes the American West great. And it is certainly part of what makes Idaho great. And the fact that we have this history of coming together to protect special places, but we also have a history of coming together to protect our backyard, literally, public lands. And it's a very special thing. It's what Idaho really means. And, I'm forever an optimist. I believe that our history is still being written every single day. And these public land issues, they're nonpartisan. They transcend politics. They're why we live here. Or as Cecil Andrus famously said, we live here to make a living, but our second paycheck is the public lands we get to enjoy every day.
I like that. We got about a minute left. We haven't even scratched the surface of the battle and, the multi-year history going back, as you said, decades. For folks who want to come to the Osher presentation, you're going to go into all of that, right?
Well, the Osher Institute has invited me. I have a 2-hour slot. I've got a lot of photographs and discussion to be able to provide. It's a long story. It's a convoluted one, but it ends the way it should, which is diverse people coming together, creating an enduring solution for the future of Idaho. And I look forward to talking about it at 1:30 this coming Wednesday, August 27th, with the Osher Institute at Boise State.
Well, this has been fantastic. Rick, thanks for the preview.
All right. Thank you for inviting me.
We've been speaking with Rick Johnson, former executive director of Idaho's Conservation League, about his upcoming OSHA presentation, as he said, August 27th, on the historic battle for Idaho's Boulder White Cloud Mountain Wilderness designation. Fantastic. And what a story that was.
You've been listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. I'm Gemma Gaudette.